Welcome to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with your host, motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Be sure to check out Greg at www.gregdwyer.com. That's www.gregdwyer.com. Now on to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Do you have a message? Do you have a product that you want to get out into the world? Do you want to make a difference and you find yourself frustrated that you're not getting traction? I have felt that way before I met Donald Miller. Now, I would love to tell you that Donald Miller is going to be on our podcast today, but that's not true. But I want to give you a little bit of information about this man so that you can benefit from it. So if you're in marketing, or if you're in sales, or you have a message that you want to get out to the world without doing a TED Talk. Now, if you want to do a TED Talk, that's fine. But I'm talking about a different way of thinking that most people miss. Years ago, my good friend Tim David and I were talking about books because he's a nerd just like me. And I can say that because I've known Tim for years. He loves to read. He loves books. I love books. And I said, hey, Tim, what do you think about this guy, Donald Miller, building a story brand? He says, Greg, are you kidding me? It's been on the New York best-selling list for years, you know, and not all that's the best business book. He says, dude, you got to buy it. So I've got it in my hand right now. It's a white book. It came out a few years back. I have notes all over the place. In fact, I'm such a nerd and such a fan of Donald Miller that he just came out with another book called Building a Story Brand 2.0, fully revised and updated, and he talks about AI. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's the problem. The problem is, as marketers, we fall in love with our product. Why? Because we've been involved in product development for years. I don't know if you're writing a book. I don't know if you're a singer, an actor. I don't know if you're a magician, a speaker. You have some message that you want to get out to the world or some product. But if you're like me, you're not just throwing mud up against the wall or spaghetti against the wall. You're doing research. You're refining your speech. You're working on your craft, and you take it to heart because it's your baby. It's your thing. So here's the mistake that most of us make, and I made as well. We fall in love with the process, or we fall in love with the product. Someone once said it's so hard to read the outside of the bottle when you're inside the bottle. Imagine you're inside a bottle, like a wine bottle or a bottle of olive oil, and you're inside the bottle of olive oil. You can't read the labeling from the inside of the bottle. You know, it's impossible to be able to understand that what you have, as much as it might be needful and it could help a lot of people, whether it's a speech or a book or a process or a framework, when we start with our product and we don't understand that people are just hit over the head with product and noise, we're not going to make traction. So I picked up this book a few years ago, and I read it. I took notes, and what it led me to was the man Don Miller and an online course that I think I spent a couple $100 for a year for, which was well worth it. It was probably one of the best marketing investments that I ever made in my life. I've been in the class 2 times. So I'm not only a Don Miller fan, I'm also a person that has studied his material. Now, I will tell you this, full disclaimer, right? I'm not a certified coach. I'm not here to tell you I'm going to teach you the Don Miller format. You're going to come to me and I'm going to teach it to you. No, that's not going to do that. All I'm doing is promoting him so that you can find out about him, watch his YouTube videos, read his books, and get involved with him. Be a coach if you want. I'm not a coach under his program. I'm not looking to coach you on this program. All I want to do is share some information that literally has changed my life. So the first mistake that we make is we're so involved in our product that when we bring it to the marketplace, we're not able to communicate it in a way that people understand. You know, if you're a really analytical person, you could talk about, you know, the benefits of this and the features of this and how important it is. And because well, let me give you an example. Years ago, I was talking to my friend Tim David. I said, hey, Tim, I want to write a book. He goes, don't do it. I said, what do you mean? He says, Greg, you got to figure out your messaging. You got to figure out your core idea. You got to figure out, what problem that you solve. And the worst thing you can do as a speaker is to come up with a book, write a book, spend the next 2 years writing a book or the year writing a book. And then you go out there and you start speaking, and then all of a sudden your topic changes because you change and you define it differently and you get feedback from your audience. You write this book about ABC, and then 2, 4, 3 years later, you're talking about X, Y, and Z, and there's a big disconnect. So I was so thankful for that advice. So when I said, hey, I'm going to be a speaker, my whole focus was the magic of communication. I had studied NLP, I had studied hypnosis, I had studied communication models. So I thought, this is it, the magic of communication. And that's where I started, and I worked it out in libraries. I would like to tell you I worked it out in smoky rooms, but that's not true. I went to library after library, and I was really bad, and I really didn't know what I was doing, and I was trying to figure it out. And then, to make a long story short, I left it. I walked away from it, and I focused on the topic of focus. Focus is my focus. That's my expertise. But it didn't happen overnight. 5 years of refining and working with coaches and figuring out my controlling idea changed everything. So I'm married to my framework. I'm connected to this, just like a woman carries a baby for 9 months and there's such a tight connection between the mom and the child. I feel the same way about my speech, my framework, Diamond Mind Potential. Now, you probably feel the same way about whatever you're doing, whether you're involved in nutrition or you've written a book or you're a speaker or you're an artist, a singer, whatever you're doing, it is about you and it's about your product that you want to bring to the world. Now, here's the problem. No one cares. That's the simplest way to explain. No one cares. No one cares about you. No one cares about your product. Nobody cares how much time and energy that you put into it. I mean, maybe your mother does. Maybe my mother, if she was alive, she would, right? I know she would. Your parents, right? That's how we talk. We got this thing, whatever it is, and we're showing it to the world like show and tell, like we expect people, customers, and prospects to like it like our mother would like it or our dad would like it. This is where Donald Miller comes in. Big shift for me. People care about themselves. I hate to say it, but it's true. Everybody is walking around concerned about themselves as far as survival, right? That's the first thing, and thriving. Those are if you want to be a mind reader, I'm a mind reader. I do a show on mind reading. Here's a secret. You want to know what people are thinking about? They're thinking about themselves. That's what they're thinking about. The past, the present, the future. And not only are they thinking about themselves, they're only listening to things that make sense to them, which will help them survive or thrive in life, right? So this is what happened to me. I picked up the book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I started reading it. I kind of got it on an intellectual basis, went back, read it again, took some notes, then went on to his online course and studied it for a year, and then came back to it like a couple years later. So I really know this material, and I love this guy. He's changed my life. When you get that it's not about you, big thing, and when you get it's not about your product, it's about other people, that's the game changer. That changes everything. So you're at a party. Somebody comes up to you. Hey, what do you do, John? And you go, I'm a coach. Great. Or I'm a speaker. Great. I'm a cook. Great. I'm an airline pilot. Great. Okay, got it. Most people will be, that's fine, that's nice. But when you lead with the problem, when you lead with the pain, when you lead with being able to share with somebody that you can help them with their problem, right? It changes everything. The best way that I explained this to a client a couple years ago. I have a sister, she's 1 year younger than me. And at Christmas time, I would get Christmas gifts and I'd get birthday gifts, right? Because my birthday's on Christmas. And I would always petition my parents, this isn't right, On my birthday, I'm getting presents, and my sister's getting presents too. So when it comes to her birthday, which is in February, I want to get something. I don't know. This is how I was thinking as an 8-year-old, and truth be told, it hasn't really changed. And I would get a present on her birthday, right? So when I was old enough to buy my sister a present, I hate to confess this to you, but what I did is I bought her what I would want. Like, I loved magic and I loved whatever. I would buy that for her on her birthday. Big mistake. My sister doesn't want a Bill Bixby magic kit from the 70s or 80s. That's not what she wants. But as adults, we don't get it. We think that what we want is what everybody else wants. It's not true. So what Don taught me by reading his books and taking his courses is that you have to be able to solve a problem for people. And you have to be able to articulate it in a way that they understand it. Like, you could have the cure to the common cold, or you can have the cure to cancer, or you can have the cure to alcoholism. You can have the cure to, financial ruin. But if you can't communicate it in a way that people hear it and understand it and perceive it and take action, it's going to be a waste. So that's the first step. The first step is to realize that who you are and your product, and as much as you are the hero, he talks about this, as much as you are the hero in your own story, because you've been given this information, or you've been given this gift, and you have created this product, and you're the hero of this. Most people, I would think all people, they're not looking for a hero. They're not looking for a hero to save them. Some people might, but everyone is a hero in their own world and in their own story. So if you're saying, look how great I am, look at the product that I created, people are turned off by that. And that's one of the big mistakes that people make. They think it's about themselves, they think it's about the product, and they don't understand that they're there to serve. So what Donald talks about is this story framework. And you got to buy the book. If you haven't read the book, or you have the book and you haven't read it, this is a game changer for your business, your life, if you're in marketing, or if you have anything that you want to bring to the marketplace. Everyone out there is the hero in their own story. If you're going to help them achieve being able to thrive or to survive, you have to show up not as the hero in their story. You have to show up as the guide in their story. So when I started my website, I was living in Long Island. I paid this woman, I think, $1,500. I said, look, I don't really know what to do, but let's put together a website. Front and center was my picture and my name, motivational speaker, right? It was the hero stance. It was the hero photo. Think of a lot of these websites you go to, it's the person is front and center like they are a celebrity. The average person spends 5, 6, 7 seconds at a website. You think they care? No, they don't care about you unless you're Jennifer Lopez, unless you're somebody famous, somebody that's a celebrity and they like. But for most people, look at that and they're like, I'm my hero. I don't need you. I don't need to. You're going to pontificate to me? Like, I don't think so. So the whole secret to getting your word out is to be able to see yourself as a servant that's helping them achieve what they want. And what it comes down to, and I've heard this from a couple people that I believe are very sincere, It's about really caring about other people and understanding that you have something that could help them. And what that means is not only do you have authority, right, because you've researched this and you spent time with it, but you also have empathy. And empathy is that you care and you listen. Just the other day, I was listening to my friend Neil Gordon. He was talking about this thing that he has coined. It's called the silver bullet. And he was being interviewed on YouTube, and people were asking him, what's important about getting this right? And what he said was absolutely amazing. But I'm not going to tell you because we're going to go a quick commercial. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Do you wish you could sharpen your focus on what matters most to you and achieve more? Then you owe it to yourself to read Greg's ebook at gregdwyerebook.com. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. Download it today and give it away. As always, we want to thank you for listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Now back to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Okay, I was talking about Donald Miller and his book called The Building a Story Brand. He's got many books out there, but you want to start with that. But I was sharing a story about my friend Neil Gordon, and he was asked on a podcast, so what's the secret to the perfect messaging silver bullet? Is it contrast? Is it, is it words? What is it? What's the secret sauce? What's the secret formula? And he goes, I know exactly what it is. And he knew because he had thought this through. I think I just rhymed there. And he said, you know what? When you really care about your client or your customer or your prospect or the other person, that's everything. People know when you're looking just to make a sale. I've been sold. And let's face it, no one likes to be sold. Everyone likes to buy. We love to buy, right? But no one wants to be sold by a person that has a lot of authority and is an expert in their field, and they got their stuff together, but they really don't care. Or the only thing they do care about is getting your Visa card. That's a game changer. So empathy, caring about people, listening to people. I'm not talking about faking sincerity. I'm talking about, listen, I got something that I think could help you. And then just share it with people. And then repeat that messaging over and over again until you find your tribe, until you find people that resonate with you. So let me give you a commercial. So I'm on the phone with a real estate broker. I'm on a phone with a sales manager, and they'll say to me, what do you speak about? And I'll say, I speak about focus to increase sales. Okay, that's great. When's your next conference? When's your next event? We got talking, building rapport. And then they'll say, well, what exactly do you talk about? How do you do it? And I'll say to them, listen, I don't know if this is for you. And I don't even know if you can resonate with this or even agree with this. But I've been around sales training for decades. And what I have found is there's a large group of people in the sales team, maybe 2 or 3% are really killing it. And there's a lot of people that get distracted. They get caught up in matters that don't make them money, and they get frustrated. Have you seen that to be true? I get 2 reactions. No, not at all. Everyone that we have on the team is a top performer. We don't need your services. We're okay. Okay, there's nothing I can do for that guy. There's nothing I can do for that woman. Then I also get other people that respond, you're right, Greg. We have people that are just, they're spinning their wheels. They're not focused. They want to make a killing in real estate. They want to do really well, but you know what? They're just so distracted with the life, the balance of work and life and everything that goes on with social media. They're just running around with their, as my mom used to say, their head cut off, right? So then I say to them, well, most people focus on conscious effort, and it's exhausting. Focus on conscious effort or willpower is draining for the soul. But what I do is I help people to reprogram the unconscious. That's what I do. All right. So let me tell you something. This is between you and I. I've been thinking about this for 5 years, trying to figure out what is my place in the marketplace. What is it that I'm gifted in? What do I know better than anything? And how to be able to communicate it to a person that will listen to me. And it all begins by understanding that it's not about me. I'm not the hero. I'm only the guide. And I can't save the world. You just can't. So one of the things that Don Miller talks about, which is really exciting, is that it is a relationship. You're not going to call, 100 people and you get people to say yes on the first date. Like you wouldn't go up to a man or a woman or somebody and say, hey, would you like to get married? That's kind of crazy. So there's a process to this. There's a relationship. And so the first part of it, I call ADAC. I call, attention, interest, desire, action, commitment. That's my bag. I like that. That's how I was taught back in years ago. Some will, some won't. You just have to play the numbers. You have to smile and dial. You're going to get their attention, but you might not get their interest. And I've been able to reframe it that way. But what I love what Don talks about is there's 3 major phases. And you might want to write this down. The first one is curiosity. Curiosity. You're going to call somebody. You're going to send an email. You're going to talk to somebody at a party. You're going to go up to a networking group, right? The first step is curiosity. Oh, well, that's interesting. How do you do that? Why are you asking? You killing time here, or do you have the problem? Like, you know what I mean? So, like, what's going on here? But the first step is real curiosity, right? So when I talk to people, I'll say, listen, I'm guessing that most likely you're not looking to hire a speaker today. Is that true? Yes, of course that's true. Yeah, our conference is coming up in October. Here it is, March. All right, no problem. Not a problem. But before I let you go, I'll get you some information. And, I don't know when you're going to take a look at this, but when would be a good time? May or June to give you a call? Like, what do you think? Just make sure it doesn't go into a spam filter. But that's the first step. It's just to create awareness. I call attention, but what he calls it is curiosity. Oh, you're Greg Dwyer. You speak about focus. Okay, all right. Oh, let me go to your website. Oh, that's interesting. Let me go to LinkedIn, right? Most people, they're not going to do anything unless they think that you can help them with a problem, that you can help them survive or thrive. The next stage in the relationship sales process is enlightenment. Greg, I listened to your sizzle reel. I watched your sizzle reel. I've looked at some of your posts. I've gone on your website. I've seen how many videos. I've seen your television show. You really care, right? Or you really know what you're talking about. I think you might be able to help our team, but I don't know. I'm not sure if we can afford you. Yada, yada, yada. So the first step is curiosity. The second step is enlightenment. And the third step is, wow, it sounds like you might benefit from. Like, it sounds like bringing me into your sales team might work. Maybe we should talk about a test drive. Maybe I should come in and just introduce myself and share a little bit of information, hoping that maybe down the road you might hire me, or maybe you'll give me some referrals. That's commitment. That's one baby step in the right direction. So this is a game changer. When you change your mind, of course, I love the idea of, changing your mind. The word in Greek is metanoia. You're going in one direction, and then you change your mind and you go into a different direction. Why? Because you realize it's not about you. It's not about your product. There's too much noise in the marketplace. If you want to build something based on your product and your voice and yourself, you just don't have the millions of dollars to compete with Coca-Cola or McDonald's. You don't have it. You don't have the money. You're going to die in the marketplace. What it really requires is for you to fall in love with your customer, to be a proactive expert that's just reaching out and letting people know, hey, look, I don't know if you struggle with this. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you're going to be hungry for my services in the future, but I just want to introduce myself, not as a salesperson that's going to try to close you, right? But rather someone that's going to help you. So here's my commercial. I've read Donald Miller's books I have Building a Story Brand. I also have the new version that just came out, 2.0, which talks about artificial intelligence, which, by the way, is also a game changer because it will help you with your messaging. It's all about being of service to people. Totally. So when I started out, I wanted to figure out the process. So I reached out to a lot of libraries. Hey, I'm a magician. I'm a mind reader. I talk about focus. I just want to touch base with you. And I did that for years. And I made a lot of money. In fact, last year I made a lot of money. I've gone to a lot of different events. It was nothing that I regret. But when I learned this, I changed the way that I reached out to people. Instead of saying, listen, I'm a mind reader, or I do a motivational speech, or I wrote a book, or I have something that I think can help you, I approached it from a different point of view. And my approach is, don't you hate it when you bring in a speaker, you bring in an author, you bring in somebody to do a program and the place is empty? It makes you look bad, and if it continues to happen, it's a downward spiral, and the presenter is really stressed out because there's only 2 people in the room, and it's not a good situation. That's why I never push my agenda. That's why I started an agency, a talent agency of magicians and speakers and comedians and authors and hypnotists to serve you. Game changer for me. Game changer for me. The other thing is, for a year, 12 months, I've been working on my speaker reel, my reel for advertising my services. And what I did is I took the information that I learned from Don Miller about finding someone that needs my services and presenting myself as a guide who can help them solve their problem, right? If I had just simply gone to a video marketing person that does video or graphics and said, hey, listen, I want to create a video about my services, about myself, and about my topic, I'm sure I could find a narcissist that would have put together a great video about me. And I would have paid them a lot of money, and that video would probably not get any traction. So I'm in the process of uploading this. I'll give you the link to it once you hear this and once it's uploaded. But it's on YouTube right now. But I'm so proud of it because it's not about my process. It's not about me. It's not about my framework. It's about my customers who are in real estate, or people who are in sales at least, that have a problem with distraction. Because distraction destroys greatness. So that's my sermon for you this Sunday, okay? I really want to help you. If you really want to get your message out, just realize that the marketplace is so crowded and is so noisy that you're not going to be able to stand out if you focus on yourself and your book or whatever you have. You will stand out once you fall in love with your customer and you realize that you are there not as a hero, not as the star, but as the guide who's going to help them get across the finish line, and then you're going to disappear. When that happens, magic will happen. Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Change your focus, change your future. Talk to you next time.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Check out Greg at gregdwyer.com. Be sure to download his ebook at gregdwyerebook.com to stay focused on what matters most to you. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. We want to thank you for listening. Now go make a difference in your world.